to hold together and to split apart at one and the same time, like the shock of being born, breathing in this world, while lamenting for the one we've left. No one needs to tell us we are already on our onward way. No one has to remind us of our everyday and intimate embrace with disappearance. We were born saying goodbye to what we love. We were born in a beautiful reluctance to be here, not quite ready to breathe in this new world. We are here and we are almost not. We are present while still not wanting to admit we have arrived. We love and hate, often with one breath. At night our bodies one, but apart come the morning, and where the breath from our lungs once mingled, and we carried the taste of the other on our tongue, now we spit curses and turn our hearts toward none. The word cleave is a rare homonym, a word with two meanings. It can be used to mean a separation, a splitting or dividing of two things or of a thing in two. It can also mean the opposite, to cling, to adhere to something or someone. The meaning lies in the context, and too often the context only becomes clear further down the line after all is said and done. And in the case of the Cainites, whose lives are unlives, span centuries, the true context, the true meaning of any one action, word, or event can take a very long time indeed to become clear. Actions taken, the results can echo down the years, across eras even, before the truth can out. But truth does out eventually, and every careless whisper or action can echo just as loudly as the most thought-out meaningful decision, amplified by emotions, secrets, and misunderstandings. Hundreds of years from now, in the distant city of Montreal, the truth of these events begins to unfold. But for Lady Artemisia Willoughby of Clan Cappadocian and for her bodyguard Amar of the Lamias, things have just begun. Context is not yet established, and the true meaning of the word cleave has yet to be uncovered. Constantinople, in the year of our Lord, 1444. The following is taken from Constantinople by Night by Philip Boulay, Joshua Mascara Asham, and Lucien Sulban. The Roman Empire lies in ruins, and from its ashes rose Constantinople, the city of gold, the crossroads of the world. The bridge between what was and what will be, Constantinople sits uneasily between two worlds, the Byzantine Empire a wonder and marvel to both the east and west. Roman, Hellenistic, and Christian influences merge and come into conflict. At its heart is the majestic Hagia Sophia, the Church of Holy Wisdom, whose towers and domes shine brightly in the midday sun and glow with eerie torchlight all through the night. Radiating outward from this nexus along immaculate streets can be found the many forms of the city, its imposing hippodrome and the majestic palaces from which the emperors ruled Constantinople and the Byzantine Empire. Roman-style villas, bazaars, and secluded monasteries can be found atop Constantinople's 7 hills, which are home to its staggering 1 million citizens, making it the largest and richest city in the world. Although serene, Constantinople has not escaped the ravages of time. Constantinople is the greatest city in Europe, but it also casts a dark shadow. Its streets and churches betray its Cainite masters. Indeed, many of its holy icons are reflections of vampires. The imperial throne, once dominated by Ventru but now firmly in the clutch of the Cappadocian, the clan of death, is held by its last emperor. In many ways, Constantinople is a city spiraling into anarchy, its factions struggling to hold on to reins that are ragged and frayed, the city crumbling into the dust of history around them. It is September 29, 1444, Michaelmas. The rooms here are dark, the tall window covered in thick purple drapes. Candles and a few oil lamps suffuse the darkness with a warm amber light, which reflects off the dozens and dozens of well-oiled leather-bound covers of books stacked neatly along the shelves. Lady Artemisia Willoughby of Clan Cappadocia sits at her work table, her hands covered in red. Her hands move in a practiced manner, mixing the corpse's ashes in with the red clay from the riverbank, the red turning dark with the ash. In moments, her hands are fashioning a small head, the details of which are provided to her in whispers. My eyes were always deeper set. Press with your thumbs. Yes, that's better. I was always told my profile was my strong suit, a Roman nose, I was told, even though I was Greek. No, a straighter line. Yes, perfect. And as you work away at this little clay head, can you tell us a little bit about Artemisia, what she looks like and who she is?
Yes, you see sitting at the table a very young looking woman, outside of stark white hair that is long and flows straight down her back. She is dressed in all black as though she's mourning something, a outfit she often wears. She's never seen with a touch of color on her.
As you work away on this piece of clay, you hear the door open behind you somewhere. It opens very softly, just enough to let you know that someone's coming in, and then closes. The footsteps are easily recognizable. When the voice comes, it's not unexpected. Sister, the breath of the dead blow like an ill wind over this city. And what word do they sing? What name is carried upon their black breaths but your name? And yet, here you are, still playing with your little doll heads.
I believe she sets the clay piece she's working on down and takes a wet rag and drapes it over the clay to protect it not only from drying out, but from prying eyes. Good evening, brother. Is there something that you wish of me? You often don't come down to my crypts.
Your brother Dario walks in and, as always, feigns interest in the elements found in your room, runs his fingers along the spines of the books, stands by one of the lamps and turns it down just so, just make it just a little darker. Takes his time, as always, going to the point. Eventually comes to stand next to you and looks down, again, disinterestedly at the work you're doing, and then back up at you. I suppose you are aware that our dear Sire plans to slip into the long sleep soon.
I have heard.
You are also, I'm certain, aware that he plans to name you as the head of the family to oversee our affairs, to oversee our move back to England.
I was understood that it was to be you. Why the change of heart now?
Well, as ever, our great Sire's mind is difficult to read. I thought perhaps you might know why he changed his mind. Perhaps you did something. Perhaps you made suggestions. Perhaps you sidled up to him in the dark and whispered little words in his ear.
Come now, brother. You know I don't want such power. My place is here, in the crypts, reading my studies.
At least that's something we can both agree on. I entreat you, sister, do the right thing. Make him see the folly of this decision, You neither want this task, nor can you see it through. By every rights, it should be me, and you know this, so help me make him see.
I think she stands at this, her hands held before her. My apologies. You know I do not wish this. It is not my desire to rule. It is my desire to be left alone.
And yet here we are. You know as well as I do that the old man is rather stubborn, and unless whatever has been done to him to make him change his mind is undone, the chances that he will do so are growing increasingly small.
And you think that I can sway him, even though I have not done so to ask for this?
Let me ask you this, dear sister. Do you think your suitor, Fulgio, will take kindly to you emptying the coffers of the church, taking all that has been accumulated here for 1,000 years, and moving it to London? These treasures belong here, and they should remain here. I can oversee that. You may finally return to England. Does your heart not yearn for the land of your birth? Do you not long to visit his resting place once more? And as he says that, he looks over at a particular jar that's sitting on the mantle where a head is floating.
You know I wish to go back to this place, even if it haunts me. So
you'll work with me then. You'll do what you can to undo whatever it is that has been done to change our dear sire's mind.
I will speak with him. Yes. Of course, but I can make no promise to you.
Well, at least you're willing to try. That's something. I hear there's a visitor on their way here. It seems you've now been granted the service of your very own Lamia bodyguard. Now, I'm assuming making a Lamia come here from whatever dusty hellhole they come from takes a long time. And so when you say that there's no work that's been done on our sire to change his mind, I'm forced to wonder because, well, it seems he changed his mind a long time ago but didn't see fit to tell us until recently. It's very vexing.
And why do you think that would be, brother?
I think that perhaps you did not actively seek this, but I think you may be preferred by many who work in the shadows and would rather see you in charge. I think perhaps because they think you might be easier to handle, easier to control, to govern, to fool even.
Is it so? Do you believe this?
Would I be saying it if I did not believe it? You may keep your secrets, sister. You may choose to tell me or not tell me to what level you are involved in this. I think it's pretty clear that someone is on your behalf. And if you do not wish to share who these people are with me, then there's little I can do right now except to hold you to your word that you will speak with our sire.
I will do as I've said that I will do. Is there anything else you ask of me, brother, or may I get back to my work?
Hear this, sister dear. My final entreaty. Change our sire's mind. The black breath of death blows upon the city, and who knows who it may settle upon. The nights are long until they are no more. And who's to tell which spirit's breath it is? Some spirits are harder than others to find, but once laid claim to become incredibly powerful allies and may be used to cause great anguish on one's enemies. Do not make yourself mine. As he says this, he reaches out with a long finger and he tips that canopic jar with the head off the shelf. It falls to the ground, shattering, the liquid in it splashing all over the head, rolling, a lock of hair floating away on the liquid, and the head coming to rest between you and him.
She collapses onto the floor, desperately trying to collect its pieces.
He watches you for a bit and then says, "Time to return to the past, sister, and leave the future to those of us with vision." And you hear the door open and close.
I think he hears a gentle sob in his wake, and the soft clinking of clay hitting itself as she collects it into her hands and on her skirt, bringing the last piece, the lock of hair, floating away, bringing it to her lips and kissing it, smelling it. Tristan, I'm so sorry.
The little voice that was in your ear earlier that belongs to the little head you were making returns. You seem distraught. I don't sense any connection between whoever this person was and the world beyond. Who was he, if I may ask?
My husband, Sir Tristan Willoughby. I loved him a great deal. I have searched for him for a very long time, but I do not hear his calls. I have kept his hair, and my brother knows that I do not hear his calls. That's why he plays with these things. He wouldn't dare touch my other jaws. But this one... She collects these pieces and sets them on the table as she takes a seat back in her chair.
As you do, this strange little creature, this hand with a piece of burlap bag attached to where the severed wrist would be, comes crawling out from under your skirts, crawls across the floor, and slowly starts to pick up little pieces and shards of the jar, one by one, moving them and throwing them away.
No. Pest. Do not throw those away. Collect them all. I will fix it.
The hand obeys. The spirit in your ear says, "The dark territories beyond are in turmoil. They fear something major is about to happen. They speak of some earthly plot that may upset even those as far as oblivion. That may be why your husband is unreachable."
Something here feels very wrong. I can say that. The way my brother accused me, speaking to our sire as though I plot against him. I do not know what I am to do now. I feel cleaved in two. The world calls to me,
And as Artemisia ponders the current state of affairs and perhaps wishes again that there was a way to be in touch with her deceased husband's spirit in the harbor. In the dark of night, a boat from far away glides in silently on the waves, pulling up at a discreet dock on the edges of the Latin Quarter, a dock that is kept clear of most mortals. As you gaze upon this city that has only been described to you, that you've never seen, Amar, you are both awed at the size of it, at the veritable, massive presence of it, the weight of ages. This truly is the crossroads of the world. However, the city that had been described to you was one of splendors beyond what you see now. This city, though massive and of a scope that your mind could not even have imagined before you took it in, seems old and tired and falling apart. And as the boat glides in close, your practiced eye and your ability to see in the darkness allow you to see that the rocks are old and chipped. There is dust everywhere. The painting on the minarets is peeling. The lights seem somewhat duller than they might have been at another time. The boat pulls into the harbor, and as it does, what would someone see if they were to gaze upon you?
They would see a relatively average height woman, taut and muscled, sun-kissed, with a dark veil over her head. She's unsure what exactly the customs of this city are, and she knows better than to make a spectacle of herself. She has long, dark hair and eyes with slits. She wears modest gold jewelry, simple. And if anyone were to look close enough, they would see she has a very lethal blade strapped to her leg and one strapped to the inside of her left wrist.
As the boat pulls up to the dock and you disembark, no one looking at you, no one speaking to you, you realize that even though it is the middle of the night, the city is still quite active. You can sense just beyond the darkness, just beyond the area where your boat has docked, that there is life. People are buzzing about, places to drink and eat are open. The bazaar is still seeing plenty of action. You realize this is probably a place that never really sleeps. You are used to the near constant silence of the desert. And now you fear you may never enjoy silence again. But as you step upon the dock, you see a group of men approaching you. A number of them are knights, soldiers in a black garb with a cross on their shields and on their tabards, wearing helmets and swords, relics almost of a bygone age. Ahead of them is a very elegant, dark-skinned man wearing beautiful silks and with a beautiful smile, jewelry adorning his body as he approaches you and says, Amar el-Din, it is a pleasure to meet you. And he bows.
She
My name
bows
is
in return.
Abraham. Sorry, go ahead.
She bows in return.
My name is Abraham. I'm seneschal to Cappadocian family here. You notice as he speaks that he's not a Cainite, he's a ghoul. I have been sent to meet you and take you to meet our esteemed Empress, Etria Caligula. It is a pleasure to be the first to welcome you to our humble little city.
Humble indeed. What is the need for the entourage?
The Empress, Etria, wanted you to have an honor guard.
Ah, very kind of her. Thank you.
You arrive at a historical moment, a turning point. The family is preparing to leave the city it has held for such a long time. Angelico believes London will be the next crossroads of the world. You may not be in Constantinople long after all. You should soak it up as much as you can.
London, well, from what I hear, there will be plenty of soaking to do. Nothing but damp ground and damp cough.
I myself have not been, but the lady Artemisia, who you will meet later, comes from England. She, I'm certain, can tell you everything there is to tell about it. I myself hear that it is a very damp little hole, but Angelico is convinced that it is the next great city, London, that is, of the world, after Rome and Jerusalem and Constantinople, perhaps London. But we should be on our way. Allow me to introduce the Chevalier de Lyon, the leader of the Blackfriars, and as he approaches, you sense immediately that he's kindred. In fact, you sense that a number of the Knights Templars that accompany them are kindred, the others are ghouls. He approaches and removes his helmet. His face is deformed, most of it kind of caved in on one side, his head hairless, his one good eye kind of baleful as it glares at you, his mouth lopsided. Puts his helmet under his arm and says, Pleasure to meet you. Shall we be on our way then?
The pleasure is mine. And yes, my lord.
You begin walking through the city, heading towards the, not as you might have expected, the Emperor's keep or castle, because obviously there is a human emperor, but you are heading to wherever it is that the head of the Cainites in the city, Etria Caligula, is. You've been informed of Etria. For a long time, the city was run by 3 kindred and then just one, Michael, a toreador. When he went into sleep, he ordained 3 other Cainites to run the city. One was Alessandra, one was a toreador, and one was Etria Caligula. Now only Etria remains. The others have been, well, gone away in one way or another. As you walk through the city and take in just a sheer amount of people that are here, everywhere. People moving, people talking, sounds, lights, lamps, braziers, people laughing, the sounds of animals. It's almost overwhelming. De Leon looks at you with his crooked face and says, May I ask you a question?
Of course, my lord.
Is it true that you Lamias are Lilins, that you reject the father Cain, or progenitor? I've heard tales.
It is true. We believe similar but different things. It is not simply that we reject Cain, we just reject him as our leader. You see, we believe that we all came from Lilith. It is this great sense of strong masculine energy that makes people believe that they are descendants of Cain.
I've always myself thought that the Dark Mother was but a myth. What has brought you to believe in her? Is it something that is taught to you from early on? Is this something that you discovered later on? How does one become a Lilin?
How does one commune with any god? Through faith and devotion. Through the acts of miracles. Through your very eyes. You see, Lilith embraces all facets of the body. Ones that you, my friend, do not possess. Just like the Christians believe in a god, and the Muslims believe in their god, so too we believe in ours.
I used to believe in God myself a long time ago as a young man. And even after the change, I fought a few wars for the old man, if you get my drift. And the only thing that I've discovered comes from killing for a god is that the killing never ends. Gods are big gaping maws sitting fat, waiting to be fed over and over and over and over, and it becomes difficult in time to see an end to it. You start feeling like, the skulls can never get piled high enough. And eventually you realize you're killing just because. And I found that ill-suited me after some time.
Certainly. Because you were following someone else's orders as given by your god. Perhaps standing up for the right thing and treating all life as precious, instead of killing because some man on a throne told you must.
Speaking of killing, if I may ask you another question.
Yes, of course, my lord.
I am aware that your bite spreads disease. It would be best if you used precaution while feeding, perhaps dining only on those already dead. This city has known more than its fair share of plagues. It's in its dying throes enough as it is. We little need your filth spreading across it, hastening its demise.
My filth. Oh, I see there's much for me to learn about the customs here in Constantinople. But perhaps we shouldn't make assumptions or cast aspersions before we've truly gotten to know each other. Yes?
Well, if what Abraham says is true, you may not be here very long, so perhaps we will not get the pleasure of getting to know each other better. Pity, really.
Chevalier de Leon.
Yes.
Not in this lifetime. Not in the next. Or the one after that. And she walks on ahead.
You hear him chuckle. Abraham speeds up and comes up to you. Please allow me to apologize for Monsieur de Leon. He's a brilliant military commander, but quite renowned for his ability to offend everything and everyone. I think he sees it as a bit of a badge of honor to be able to offend everyone he encounters. He does not serve the family. He serves Atria Caligula herself, the princept. He does not serve the family, so you should not have to endure him too much.
I certainly hope he doesn't speak to Etria the way that he speaks to me. But perhaps there's a little bit more care taken in how he conducts himself. I will also say that he can only go so far with me. And men like that do not last long.
Well, the Chevalier de Lyon has been in Constantinople for going on a little over 300 years now, and was in Jerusalem for almost 100 before that, and before that was in France, I hear it. So I'm willing to bet he's got a bit of a tough hide, but I'm not saying this to minimize your abilities, of course. I'm simply offering caution.
Well, consider the warning taken. Now, can we proceed with tonight's business? I find myself slightly dazzled by this city.
Absolutely. We will meet Etria, and you will then meet Zuleika, the other Lamia who's here, who will take you to the family where you will get to meet the rest of them. We are approaching. You eventually come to a very imposing villa built upon the side of one of the hills. It's built in this strange sort of a number of several like walls, like these. I'm looking for my words tonight, but there are these square walls that are built like concentric square walls, and you have to go through like 3 gates as you move through before you can get to the central building, which is this strange domed structure. You hear, as you approach, music playing, you hear revelry, you smell blood on the air. As you walk through what is the palace of Etria Caligula, you find many a disturbing sight and sound welcoming you. Abraham himself seems quite uncomfortable in the surroundings. There are all manner of degenerate proceedings going on. To attempt to describe or understand them all would be futile. It is perhaps shocking to someone who has not encountered these things before, and it's, again, a little overwhelming, but eventually you enter an interior courtyard, and there you find Etria Caligula, the Cappadocian princeps of Constantinople. She is a fairly nondescript woman in some ways, with long dark hair that is tied in a braid that goes down very low behind her back. Her dress is not too ostentatious. You almost take her to be a simple noblewoman at first. When she turns to face you, you can see in her eye the glint of some dark, deep-seated madness, and she says, "Tell me, Gorgon, why has my own child not received his protection? Am I not the ruler of this city?" Abraham seems kind of taken by surprise by this.
My lady, and I bow deeply and stand. I apologize. You must understand it is not I who arranges these things.
That does not answer my question. I have made a request a long time ago for my child, Silas. He's the target of my enemies. And yet, this upstart, Angelico's child, now receives her own Lamia guardian? This is an insult.
I apologize for any ill feelings that this has caused, but you must understand, I have my orders. The Lady Artemisia is to be under my watch.
Well, I would have you change your watch. I would have you change your charge. Serve me. Guard my child. We'll send for another of your sisters for Angelico's brood. Besides, they're not long for the city. She comes over close to you, and as she approaches, there's this strange conflicting feelings that you're getting. One, there is this extreme corpse-like appearance to her from this up close. You realize that she was masking it somewhat from afar, but now that she's up, you can see the sunken cheeks, the very, very pale, almost sallow skin, the eyes having sort of receded deeper into their sockets. The hair is very thin. She has this very corpse-like appearance. and yet, there is something about her presence, something about the smell of her perfume or the way she moves that is enthralling, and you find yourself being subtly manipulated through the powers of her blood. Not enough to cause serious offense, but you are repulsed at the same time as you are attracted to her. This strangest feeling. And she approaches you very, very gently. There are advantages to serving the Death Maiden, ruler of Constantinople.
I understand that there may be advantages, but I have my orders, and I would like to use Unswayable Mind, if I may.
Absolutely.
The user gains the mystical ability to resist any attempts to sway them through mundane charms, coercion, and wiles. It's a free cost.
Excellent. You find yourself being a little more in control of your feelings. She appears to have noticed this, and she smiles. Well, who would you rather serve, Lamia? The ruler of Constantinople or one of her lackeys?
As I have said, the Lady Artemisia is to be under my watch. I will not sway from these orders, for these were the ones that were handed to me. And my name is Amar.
She turns and walks away. Abraham is like, I believe we are dismissed.
Very well.
It will, I'm certain, count for an introduction, so I don't suppose there will be any further issues. And Abraham accompanies you on. As he does, you notice that the Templars have stayed behind, and you are now alone with Abraham. And as you step outside the palace, he says, we should be able to... here she comes. And you see a woman that I've heard of, even though you've never met her. Zuleika is a bit of a legend amongst the Lamias. She is this striking, tall, powerfully built black woman with this beautiful fur on her shoulders and these golden rings around her neck and around her arms. She has this big, beautiful broadsword strapped to her back. Her body is covered in these white ink tattoos that tell the story of her victories and even her defeats all over her body. And she approaches and she's like, Sister.
Oh,
it is a pleasure to finally meet you.
It is indeed.
She comes over, and I assume the Lamias would have some sort of official greeting that you perform.
I honestly think it is an embrace.
Then there you go. The two of you embrace. Abraham says, I trust you can see the Lady Eldin to the compound. Like it says, I will, Abraham. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to meet you, lady. I look forward to seeing you again sometime soon. I have much business to attend to.
Very well. I bid you adieu.
You start walking back towards the city. So you've met Etria.
I certainly have. The corpse mother thrives, I see.
Mm. She has been here a very long time, and the city is starting to look exactly like her. She's tried to recruit you, hasn't she?
Oh, most assuredly. The first words are out of her mouth.
You should know that she had been assigned 2 of our sisters before, and she killed both of them.
Yes, I did know that, and I am not keen to step into her path.
She's a degenerate. It's no wonder the city is sinking into decay. But we will not feed any more of our sisters to her yearning maw. You best stay away from her, as you suggest.
Oh, that will not be an issue.
Come, I'll introduce you to your charge. There is a bit of strife going on. The Cappadocian have been in control of the church here for a very long time, while Lady Caligula and some of her brethren plan on staying here. Angelico, who is, for all intents and purposes, the head of the family, has decided to move everything back to England. They are moving most of what belongs to the church, money, art, books, all of this are being loaded into boats and taken back to England with the family. This has caused some tensions. There are several factions of Christians in this city, and there are those who are interested in moving the treasures and saving them, feeling that the city is about to fall, and there are those who believe that God will keep the city safe and that these things should remain here. And it's starting to cause issues, not just among the family, but in the streets also, and tempers are a little high these days.
Personally, I always thought that faith and politics should be separate things, but that is my opinion.
And that is certainly not the way of things in Constantinople, where faith, ruling, and everyday life are one and the same.
A fool's errand. That, and I believe that artifacts should belong to the cultures who own them.
I agree.
Placed on display.
You would do well to keep these thoughts to yourself when with the family. You will fortunately be assigned to Artemisia, the youngest of Angelico's 2 children. She is strange, reserved, quiet, very studious. Not quite sure why Angelico has decided to make her the head of the family to oversee the transfer. By all accounts, it should have been her older brother Dario, but I believe he wants to stay here, and that's perhaps why Angelico has changed his mind. But I think you'll find Artemisia to be pleasant enough to be around, as long as you're not easily disturbed by dead things or crawling dead things.
I have spent enough time around crawling dead things. Well, crawling things that then end up dead. I suppose I can handle it. Thank you for the warning.
Of course. Come, we'll go to the house of the dead, and I will introduce you to the family. You may
Very good.
meet and take some time to speak with Artemisia.
I look forward to it. Thank you.
As you move towards the center of town, the cool, crisp night air of Constantinople carries the murmurs of solemn celebration. It's Michaelmas, a feast day dedicated to the Archangel Michael, the heavenly warrior protector of the faithful. The procession begins at the Domus Mortuorum, the House of the Dead, a solemn and shadowy place in the heart of the city, its architecture heavy with the weight of grief and memory. The building is a somber structure of blackened stone, and it stands silent as the first candles flicker to life, casting long wavering shadows upon its walls. 100 or more cloaked figures begin to emerge from its darkened entrance, bearing torches that light their path through the narrow streets. The procession is led by priests robed in dark violet and gold vestments, holding incense burners whose smoke curls into the cool night sky. The scent of myrrh and frankincense wafts through the air, mingling with the faint odor of wet earth and stone. A somber chant rises from the crowd, the deep, guttural tones of Byzantine monks filling the streets, echoing off the towering walls of the ancient city. As the procession moves forward, the people of Constantinople either merge with them or step back in reverence. The procession makes its way down the winding cobblestone streets, passing beneath flickering oil lamps that hang from iron posts. The city's great walls loom on either side, as ancient as the Roman Empire itself, and the quiet rhythm of the march is punctuated by the distant sound of the sea. Behind the priests, the faithful follow, many holding candles or small lanterns, their faces illuminated in soft golden light. In the darkness, their eyes gleam with devotion, their faces a mixture of awe, reverence, and solemnity. Some are dressed in their finest garments, others in humble robes, all united in purpose. As they walk, they mutter prayers under their breath, invoking the Archangel Michael, asking for protection and divine favor. The procession turns towards the great Hagia Sophia, its massive dome visible in the distance, a beacon of light in the dark sky. The cathedral, a symbol of the city's divine connection, stands magnificently, its countless mosaics glistening even in the darkness, untouched by the decay and rot currently eating away at the city. As they approach the building, the chants grow louder, the voices harmonizing in perfect unison. The burning torches reflect off the marbled streets, casting the flickering shadows of saints and angels on the ancient stonework. At the doors of the Hagia Sophia, the procession halts. A moment of silence fills the air, and the city's heartbeat seems to still as everyone waits in reverence. The priests at the front of the procession raise their incense burners high, swinging them in rhythmic arcs as the smoke rises, spiraling towards the heaven. The doors to Hagia Sophia open slowly, and the sound of bells ring out in the distance, marking the start of the midnight mass. The procession enters, moving with solemn grace as the light from the candles and torches slowly fades into the glow of the candles within the church. Inside, the faithful gather in awe, their voices rising in an ethereal sacred song, mingling with the faint hum of Byzantine chants that reverberate through the stone walls of the cathedral. You are led inside the house of the dead. As you walk in, you find yourself in a majestic room, the marbled floors so polished that they reflect almost like a mirror the grandeur of the insides of the House of the Dead. It was created as a monument to those who died of the plague in the last two great plagues that the city had to suffer through. You walk in and are immediately aware of the splendor and grandeur that those who spoke to you of Constantinople before hinted at. The city outside may be dying, but here in the House of the Dead, the city remains as beautiful as ever. You approach a group standing off to one side. Among them is an older man wearing a simple monk's robe with a long gray and black beard, a curved walking stick in his hand. All of these seem to be affectations. He obviously radiates the power of a very ancient kindred, and so certainly doesn't need a stick to get about. Next to him is a younger vampire, a man with a bit of a dark look in his eyes, long dark hair and a bit of a beard. He's dressed in very beautiful, elegant, very somber still clothes. And next to him is the woman you are here to meet, Artemisia. What do you do?
I am captivated for just a moment, and I catch myself, and I bow deeply. My lady, greetings.
Artemisia offers a bow. You are the one that my brother told me about?
I believe so.
How lovely. I am happy to have you here.
It is an honor.
It is indeed an honor for us. I thank you, says the older man, for having traveled not only from so far away, but also so rapidly to our side.
Of course.
I am expecting to take the long sleep soon. I hope to have time to travel back to England before I do. But once I slip away, my child is the one you will be taking orders from.
I think when he says this, you see Artemisia's eyes kind of drift to the floor, a look of worry touching her features.
He sees this and looks at Dario, his other child, and says, there may be some who will seek to alter this arrangement. But hear this now, while I am still in charge and in control of this family, I have chosen my daughter to lead it in my absence. And any who say different are to be ignored, and if they persist, are to be dealt with according to my daughter's wishes. Is that understood, Dario? And the the older brother, at this bows to his father, looks at you and says, pleasure to meet you. And turns on his heels before you can even respond and stalks out.
I see you have your hands quite full, my lord.
When are they not? That's why I long for a bit of sleep. It has been a very long journey since the last time that I could rest my head. I love my daughter very dearly. I understand that she is not overjoyed at the idea.
I'm sorry to disappoint you, Father.
You can never disappoint me, dear, because I know that even if you have no taste for it, you will do an admirable job, principally because you have no taste for it, and so we'll do it from the head, which is how it should be done. This is no time for passions. This is a time for clear thinking and looking ahead. And you, looking at you, Amar.
Yes, my lord.
From this moment on, this is the most important person in the world. You will guard her, you will keep her alive. It is a certainty that there will be enemies.
I understand my assignment, sir. Thank you.
I will leave you two to get acquainted. Once you are ready, you will find sustenance in your rooms at the manor. Zuleika will show you. And with that, he walks off with Zuleika following close behind him. The two of you are left alone in the temple. You know, Artemisia, that there's beautiful gardens in the inner courtyard in the back where you might take a moment to get to know each other better.
Perhaps you would appreciate a stroll through our gardens.
That would be very fine. Thank you.
It is a very lovely place.
I imagine so.
She's going to lead her towards this.
You walk through the House of the Dead, a place dedicated to the memory of those who have died. You understand that there's very likely a crypt beneath here where other bodies are entered, but as you step through into the courtyard in the back, you are once again tonight taken completely by surprise as you enter this incredibly lush, beautiful, vibrant garden with water fountains, beautiful walkways made of very finely cut marble. There are benches, there are little nooks and crannies where one can sit in quiet contemplation. There are trees and flowers and even small animals. You see butterflies and all sorts of things sort of moving about, and there's this calm and peace and quiet and this reverence for life and quietude that suffuses and permeates this entire garden. You walk along the paths, seeing the colorful fruit. Here a pomegranate tree, here flowers of such delicate beauty and color, their fragrance, a heady mix of sweet and sharp and warm. It is incredibly calming to walk through this place. What do you do?
I hope that you found your travel here well.
My first time on the ocean, I admit it was a bit, well, I won't say perilous, but new, perhaps.
And may I ask of you perhaps something, a more intimate question?
Of course, my lady. Anything?
This life, the life of a bodyguard, someone who protects, perhaps even dies for another. Is this a life that you choose, or a life that was given to you? I do apologize for being so forward.
Not at all. You must understand the duty is not to die for you, but to ensure that we are both living.
I see.
And to your second point, it was a life bestowed upon me, but one I serve with gratitude.
Is it true that the Lamia are Lillians?
Amar hesitates for a moment and says, yes, that is true.
Fascinating. Perhaps sometime we could sit and speak on this It is a subject I know very little about.
Of course. I would be happy to explain to you the Oath of Lilith.
I do hope my curiosity doesn't offend you. My brother says it can be quite insufferable at times.
Not at all, my lady. I find a keen mind is one of the greatest gifts in this life.
You know, my father is right. This is not something I asked for. I'm not sure how to lead a people, how to take control. You see, I spend most of my days in the archives, studying in the quiet.
May I ask you something in return, my lady?
You may ask me anything.
Do you trust your father?
I do. I trust my father a great deal. I feel as though he cares for me.
Then you should
Perhaps
trust.
others I do not trust the way I trust him.
Then perhaps putting a little faith in that trust you have for your father, that he has made a wise decision.
I do hope so. There are many that are angry with him. I'm sure you perhaps know. Moving the church to England is a large undertaking. Some are quite upset.
I imagine so. A city quite like this one, it seems perhaps a bit foolish to move to church, but what do I know? I am a lowly bodyguard.
Do you think so?
Well, I have only known my home and now here. So perhaps I am not a good judge. However, I must ask if returning to England is something you would like. Would it make you happy?
I think in a way, yes. England does make me happy. It is my home. But my heart is heavy when I think of England. There is a shadow there for me that I know that I will have to confront when I arrive. I have not seen it for some time, but it is there, and it waits for me.
Courage, my lady.
You are very kind, I can tell.
I find that this world needs more kindness. Perhaps then it wouldn't be so bleak.
Do you miss your home?
I do. The smell of orange blossoms and cedar is unparalleled, but, and she glances around the gardens, the night jasmine, the pomegranates. Well, there's much to see here as well. Quite a rich landscape I see.
It does sound so beautiful. Perhaps someday I will be able to see your home.
Of course. Well, I don't know what kind of mountains you've seen, or if you know the vastness of the desert, but I would gladly take you. I forget myself. I am sorry, my lady.
No, please, Always feel free to speak plainly and sweetly to me.
Of course.
I am no tyrant of the tongue.
Unlike perhaps your brother.
Yes, my brother.
I expected more of your city. Well, perhaps not yours, but where you've lived. It seemed as though it was supposed to be something of splendor, but seems rather desolate, sickly.
It is unfortunate, isn't it? Such a beautiful city of gold. It has seen a lot of war and plague, and the gold has dulled, as though a pall has fallen over this city. Perhaps England will be a welcome city to behold, though I have not seen it in many years.
If Constantinople is gilded, perhaps London finds itself swathed in silver. Maybe that is where the magnificence lies.
Perhaps. The sun, it always travels west, does it not?
True.
You hear echoing down the halls, the footsteps of someone walking slowly and reverently, perhaps in reverence to the place, or knowing that they may be interrupting some kind of conversation, and you feel a presence hesitate at the entrance to the garden. May I interrupt?
Do I recognize this voice?
You do. It is the voice of Decimus Fulgencio.
I think she will bow her head. Of course, I was just showing our new friend around.
A man walks into the garden. He is tall, elegant, with short black beard and hair, dark skin, beautiful, somber clothes, the clothes of an administrator who has done well, and in Constantinople, the administration is very important. You see a large golden crucifix on a chain around his neck, several other little items that denote a strong affectation for the church. He is also kindred, and as he walks in, you sense, Amar, the shadows in the area move very subtly. They move to allow his face to be seen more clearly so that he appears perhaps less threatening or less secretive. My lady, he says as he approaches and bows to Artemisia, I am dreadfully sorry if I'm interrupting.
No. What is it, Decimus?
He gives a very discreet look towards Amar. May we speak freely?
Yes, you may. She is the bodyguard sent from the Lamia.
Ah, very good. And
Amar, this is Decimus. Decimus, Amar.
pleasure, my lady. And he bows to you. I am but a lowly clerical servant of the city and the church, but I am friends with Lady Willoughby. I apologize for the interruption. I will not take too much of your time. As he's talking, Amar, you can't really kind of put a finger on him. There's something about him that seems a little kind of off and kind of sets off your sixth sense a little bit, but it's not incredibly overwhelming, and it kind of vacillates. In some moments, he doesn't seem at all to be kind of suspicious. In some others, he is. He's very, very difficult, kind of like a shadow, very difficult to kind of pinpoint. He says, I came across something in the office tonight, and I thought I might ask you, as you are to be the decision-making, the person in charge of decision-making for your family now. I have been asked to sign off on orders concerning export permits for several warehouses operated by your family for the church. These orders alter the destination of these warehouses' contents from England to Italy. I was not aware that there had been a change of destination planned.
Nor have I. Curious. Does it say who?
It does not. The orders were given by your Seneschal Abraham, and of course he speaks for the family, but one would assume that there is another voice behind that has told him to do this. I do not know on whose orders he was acting. If not yours, perhaps your father's? He seems to be unsure of that.
It seems a bit odd, though. Everything should be going to England. You should speak to my father on this matter. It was not I that put this in.
Very well, I will do that. Do you know if he's indisposed, or I keep hearing that he's feeling a little lethargic these days?
He should be all right to speak to. He was speaking to us only a moment ago, here for the entrance of our new Lamia friend.
Very well, then I will seek audience with him. Thank you so much for your time. As always, it is the most absolute pleasure to be in your company. I dare say that for all the beauty and peace that this garden has to offer, all of it pales in comparison to what you do. And he takes your hand and bows towards you. And he looks to Amar and says, "It is a pleasure to meet you, and dare I say, I believe you arrive at a most auspicious time."
Good evening.
And with that, he turns and exits the way he came. The shadows again sort of move in a strange way and pattern around him until the two of you are left alone.
Amar very subtly clicks her sleeve dagger back into the sheath.
You return to the house, the manor. You are brought to your quarters. You are introduced to the other people in the house. A few nights go by. The two of you are spending time together, learning about each other. What would you say in the next few nights? What would you say would be the thing or the few things that the other would notice the most about you, and what would be your demeanor towards them? How would you be trying to present yourself? What would you be trying to make the other person sort of, what kind of relationship or mood would you be trying to build between the two of you? And thank you very much, Tithalanos, for the raid. We really appreciate you coming in. Hope you had a good game. If you would like to tell us a little bit about that, what happens over the next few nights as you are getting to know each other.
I think that Amar would notice that Artemisia really does kind of keep to herself. She doesn't really have much in the way of friends. She's often in the archives of the church studying. She has you would notice Pest, her homuncular servant, this little hand that kind of follows her around, and she tuts him every once in a while, and he's not necessarily mistreated per se, but she's a little sharp with him, and she would see that like she has him sit and turn pages of books for her while she reads, and he does these small little tasks. But one thing that you would always notice with her, she is very, very proper, very polite with you. And she's always making sure that you're well, that you don't need anything, which would probably strike you as a bit odd, being that you're supposed to be her bodyguard and you're supposed to be taking care of her. She's always very concerned for your comfort and your well-being in this new place.
And for Amar's part, I think it would be watchful and sort of keenly taking in her nuances and perhaps bordering on neuroticisms of her archival perusal. At times, perhaps teaching her bits and pieces of Arabic, small phrases that she thinks would be fun for her to know, that they could share kind of privately as an inside language. Amar also likely brought some sort of small game set that is from Lebanon that she would be teaching her this game throughout. And while this is all happening, Amar always keeps a lookout over her shoulder.
What are your characters, what are Amar and Artemisia feeling about the other person at this point and about the situation that they find themselves in? What's their kind of own internal take on everything?
I think that Artemisia is very torn right now because she does trust her father and she does love him. He's taken great care of her. He's given her all that she could ever need. But she doesn't see herself fit as a leader. She doesn't understand why he chose her. And right now in this moment, though Amar is another symbol of this great change, she is also a delightful distraction. The one thing that Artemisia loves more than anything is knowledge and gaining more knowledge and learning. And Amar is teaching her these fabulous games and different bits of language. And it's a very welcome distraction for this moment, coupled with the anxiety of returning to England, where she has not been since the death of her husband. So there's all these conflictions happening in her head. She's confused and upset, but somehow still delighted amid it.
I think Amar is maintaining as much professionalism as she can muster, while also understanding that the Lamia are a lineage of sisterhood, and that relationship building and connection is essential to creating a safe world and she knows that deeply. That is part of her ethos. So to have these moments of playfulness and exploration and learning are always viewed in Amar's eyes as deepening that bond and that understanding that this is why we protect people. But I think that she is also very wary. She's in this new city that she sees is quite sick. And the fact that the city is run by Cappadocian has always piqued her curiosity as to how they could expect a city to remain standing when the leaders are a clan of death. I think that she finds herself keeping to the corners and watching what the customs of this place may be. And I think there's anxiety around going to England. However, she would not let that be known.
Excellent. As I was saying earlier, a few nights go by, and soon Angelico is announcing that despite his best intentions of wanting to remain awake until the transfer could be done to England, he's unfortunately not able to stand any longer and finds himself in need of his rest. And so very quickly, over the period of a few nights, the preparations are made, and you are convened again to the Domus Mortuorum as you find out, Amar, that the crypt below is the crypt where the clan, the Cappadocian clan, has their... It's their personal crypt. It is where they find their rest, those who need it. The Domus Mortuorum, House of the Dead, stands as a solemn testament to the ravages of plague and the memory of those lost in its grip. It is located in a shadowed quarter of Constantinople. The structure is a dark, foreboding monument built from weathered basalt stone, its surface rough and worn with the passage of time. It's a building designed not just for the dead, but to honor their suffering, a place where the line between the living and the dead is both respected and blurred. The exterior of the Domus Mortuorum is stark and imposing. Its heavy stone walls rising like a fortress, its windows narrow and few, with only faint light slipping through the latticework of iron grills. A long, somber courtyard leads up to the entrance, and there the faint scent of incense and damp earth lingers in the air. The monumental doors, crafted from dark wood and adorned with intricate carvings of angels and serpents, are designed to evoke both divine protection and the relentless march of death. Upon entering, the atmosphere shifts immediately, thick with the sense of both reverence and mourning. The interior is illuminated by large braziers, their glowing embers casting a warm golden light across the space. These braziers are placed in strategic positions, sending flickering beams that dance across the stone floors and walls. The soft glow of the fire reflects in the still, dark pools of water that gather in various places throughout the hall. These pools, ancient and carefully maintained, mirror the light from above, creating an ethereal, almost otherworldly glow that flickers in time with the movements of the flames. The air is cool and heavy, the scent of the incense mingling with the lingering fragrance of the flowers and the trees in the garden beyond, and the faint metallic tang of age. The ceiling, high and vaulted, is supported by a series of massive stone pillars that rise like sentinels, their surfaces etched with intricate patterns of geometric designs and religious symbols. These pillars seem to pulse with life as the light from the braziers catches their carved details, their shadows stretching across the marble floor like long, dark fingers. Beneath this place of mourning, the crypts of the Cappadocian family lie buried in the earth. The crypts are not merely burial sites, but grand sepulchres, chambers of eternal rest hewn from the rock beneath the domus. The tombs themselves are elaborate with deep niches carved into the stone where the bones of the deceased lie wrapped in cloth or encased in gilded sarcophagi. Some crypts are empty, the dedicated resting place of the Cainites of the Clan of Death. As we come in on the scene, the lot of you are standing in one of the sepulchres as Angelico is tearing Dario a new one. The information that Decimus brought has reached Angelico's ears. He's wrought. He is here moments away from slipping into a slumber that will likely last a decade, maybe even more. And news has reached him that his son has quite likely gone behind his back. Now, Dario is defending himself. Dario is protesting, saying that he had nothing to do with it, that while he may not like his father's decisions, he respects them and intends to honor them, that he is certain in any case that his sister will fail and he will have to pick up the mantle, and it's just a matter of time, and he has all the time in the world. Angelico doesn't want to hear any of it. He gets more and more angry. Do either of you want to do anything?
I think Artemisia is standing there, her head bowed, but she does not speak.
Amar is just going to watch.
You watch as Dario protests more and more. You're not certain he's lying. It's very difficult to tell with him. He's a practiced liar, and even Artemisia, who's got a lot of experience with him, is finding it difficult to tell whether or not he's lying to his father or is actually guilty. But the longer it goes on, the more Angelico gets crossed, gets mad, gets angry. He's screaming at him. He's now switched to his language of birth, and no one can understand what he's saying, but he's just completely beside him. It is clear to all of you that his beast is probably near the surface. And since we're on that subject, I would like both of you to make rouse checks for me. Let's just see if you came into this with full stomachs or not. Hey, Tim.
Nope. Did not succeed.
Same.
So you're both at 2 hunger. As you watch the beast get closer and closer to the edge with Angelico, the two of you perhaps starting to panic or fret, you see him stop, take a moment. He seems to exert his will. All anger leaves his body. His eyes become clear again. And he looks at Zuleika, his Lamia, who in an incredibly rapid motion has caught Dario by the throat, and you see a sharp piece of wood pierce through his chest. You watch as his eyes go wide, his body starts to stiffen, and he's slowly lowered to the ground by Zuleika. I think a bit of a sleep will do my son well. Zuleika, you'll put him in his crypt. Keep him there until Artemisia has managed all her affairs and has departed for England. I would like Amar to make me a roll, please. Go ahead and give me a combat roll.
Is this in defense of Artemisia?
I'm going to say no.
Okay. That would be...
So, as I mentioned earlier, we're using a somewhat stripped-down version of the system that I came up with for this. In this particular case, you would roll your physical attribute, and you would roll a d10, and because you have the combat skill, you will add 1 to that roll. Remember, you're now rolling 3 dice, 1 regular dice and 2 hunger dice.
That is 1 success.
Okay, that's all you need. Is the success on your regular dice is the question?
Yes.
Okay. A reminder also that you do have night moves. So someone was keeping track of them. I think you might have 2 each. 9 moves just give you an automatic 3 each. 9 moves give you an automatic success. If ever you just want to succeed at something, you can spend it. The only thing is you have to spend before you roll. Okay? And can also help you avoid bad criticals if you want to do that after the fact. As you watch this happen, the smell of Dario's blood filling the room, and both of you a little bit hungry, you're smelling that kindred blood, and Dario's is quite potent. It stirs you a little bit, and you feel a little bit of a growl going on inside. But through all of that, you sense, Amar, that there is somebody else in the crypt with you. There's a movement of air where there should not be. There's a flicker of a shadow somewhere there should not be. And you get the sense that there's somebody else down here in the crypt with you.
She immediately flicks out her sleeve dagger and draws her thigh dagger and braces.
As you do that, Artemisia, you notice this. What do you do?
I think she looks stunned by this. Her head kind of snaps to Amar, her eyes wide. What is the meaning of this?
Stay behind me.
You open your mouth to say this, and you realize, while your mouth is moving, no sound is coming from it. None of you now can hear anything. It is dead silent. You can't hear the sound of your weapons being readied. You can't hear the sound of your voice. You can't hear the sound of Angelico's voice or Zuleika's voice. Everything is completely silent. And then, Amar, you see coming up behind Artemisia, stepping out of the shadows, moving in utter silence, this female form wearing chainmail all the way up to her neck, her face painted in black with symbols across her forehead, her hair and braids pulled back tight. Steps up behind Artemisia, a large dagger in her hand. Let's roll initiative. For initiative, you will simply roll a d10 and add your physical stat.
So if I have a physical stat of 7, that's what I add to it, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a 6 for me.
It's an 11 for me.
You watch in horror as the assassin, incredibly fast, going at 17 because I rolled a 10, steps up behind Artemisia. Artemisia is still talking to you, her mouth moving, and you smell blood. Artemisia, you feel a blade enter into your back. You feel the blade enter your back at the small of your back and push up. You feel it rip up along your spine. You feel bones and sinew snap inside your body. The pain radiates all the way through. Your eyes grow wide. You see this, Amar, as Artemisia screams, her mouth open wide, but no sound comes from it. You smell her blood as it starts to permeate the entire place, and you see so much of it drip down and hit the ground at her feet. You go now at 11.
If Amar could be heard, she would be saying, "You fucking scum!" I am going to come in to attack. I have a feature as a Lamia called Protection, which means I gain 2 dice on any close combat rolls involving protection of an ally or coterie member. So I will have 1 regular die plus 2 die plus my hunger die.
Excellent.
How do you want to shake that out?
Sorry, say all of that again. You get the plus 2 dice.
Yes, so I have 1 regular die that I would normally roll.
Okay, so what I'm going to do with that then is I will give you basically an advantage. So you will get an extra die to roll, and you will pick whichever one of the 2 you want as your regular dice, and then you will add 2 dice for your hunger.
Okay. Ooh, that's delicious. That is 3 successes on that.
Okay, so all that matters is that you got a success on the main die. Did you get a 10? So all that matters is that you get a 1 success on one of your regular die, and then you have to tell me if you get 1 or 10s on any of the hunger die.
Then I got a 6 on my regular die.
Okay, and no 1s or 10s. All right, excellent. So you get a success. What is it that you're doing?
I am countering faster than lightning and coming in just between them. Like I'm essentially shouldering Artemisia out of the way, letting her tip forward and try and catch herself on her hands to get her out of the way of this person. And I am coming up through one of the slits, presuming that like there's a slit in the chainmail, to catch a kidney. And I pull her close, and I just take a really good look at this person.
You know enough to know that this is an Assamite. The symbols drawn on her forehead are the promise of death made by the children of Hakim to those that they encounter. Her eyes are completely bloodshot red, and she smells of old blood, and you can see it in the links of her chainmail, all this dried old blood that has just stuck there and rusted the thing together in over countless ages of slaying and killing. This is a pure killer. Your blade slips through, does some damage to her. Her blood fills out. She lifts up her head out of the chainmail collar that she has. Her fangs are bared. What do you do, Artemisia?
I think she's going to kind of roll over, and I mean, when she lands basically on her hands, like face forward, and she's going to roll over and kind of scurry backwards behind Amar, knowing that this is her job to protect her.
Excellent. Give me an insight roll, which I see now you don't have.
Okay.
That, so you're going to roll just your mental.
Okay. That's a success.
So give me 1 second. I'm just going to fix a little something. I realize we never put health bars on your character sheets. That wound you took earlier was pretty grievous, and you took 3 damage.
Okay.
So you got a success on your roll?
I did.
You roll away from the fight, and you see that Amar is engaged with the Assamite behind you, and as you kind of turn around, you see that, again, you hadn't been aware of this because of the silence, but you see another assailant, this one a male with his nude torso rippling with muscles and old scars. He's got war paint on his face, and he's wielding this massive curved scimitar with 2 hands, and you see that he is fighting Zuleika, who is attempting to protect your father.
I think in the silence, she reaches a hand towards her father and mouths "father," as though she screams for him.
He sees you and reaches out, and as he does, the assassin who is fighting with his bodyguard slips under her blow, and you see his blade come down, and it cuts off your father's arm right at the elbow, and his arm goes flying off, and his blood gushes out onto the floor between you and him. Your brother is still lying there on its side, incapable of moving now with this stake. You can see the horror on his eyes as he's watching all of this happen, and he's prevented from doing anything about it, and the blood is lapping up against him. In front of you, Amar, the one you are fighting attempts to sidestep you to get to Artemisia. And I got a 10, so she manages to slip to the side. Do you wish to spend a night move to prevent her from...
I wish to spend a night move to do... Can I make a bid for a night move request?
Yes.
Can I spend a night move to have my relentless grasp without a rouse check?
Absolutely.
Great. Yeah. So as she attempts to sidestep, because she had tipped her head out of the collar, my hand goes in and clasps around her throat and begins to close down as hard as I possibly can, just waiting for that pop.
Excellent. So what I'm going to have you do is I'm still going to have you do a roll just to see what kind of damage you do. So you've spent your night move to get an automatic success to hit. But now I'm going to have you make your roll anyways just to see what kind of damage you would do. So roll your strength. Sorry, you're going to roll your physical plus combat, and you get to add that bonus from your defense thing.
Okay, so sorry.
So you're rolling 4
shaking.
dice, 2 regular dice and 2 hunger dice.
2 regular, and of the 2 regular dice, I take the higher number.
That's right.
Right.
And the hunger dice, you only care if they roll 1s or 10s.
Well, I got a 10 on my regular die.
Excellent.
So that's, yeah.
So that's good. All right, so you manage to grab her by the throat. You feel the throat start to constrict. You feel bone pop. You feel her collarbone shatter. And the attack that she was going to put on Artemisia, she's not going to attempt to put on you. I got a 10 again. Man, these dice are rolling hot tonight. You feel her blade go in right in there under the arm that you're holding her up with, and digs in right into your underarm there and goes deep inside. You're going to take 3 damage from this aggravated wound as you feel whatever the blade is made of burns as it cuts all the way inside of you. Blood spills out. Artemisia, you see her blood, you see Amar's blood hit the ground. It is your action now. What would you like to do, Artemisia?
Do I know my brother to be capable in terms of any kind of fighting or physicality?
You know that he is quite supernaturally powerful, as are many of the kindred in your bloodline.
I am going to reach out and remove the stake from his heart.
You reach out and pull the stake. His eyes grow wide. You see him slowly get his movement back. He looks at you and mouths, "Thank you." Back up to the top. This time the assassin's no longer trying to go after Artemisia. She wants to get rid of you because you're right in her face. I got a 6 this time, not a 10. So she's going to hit you and cause you 1 more wound. As she pulls the blade out, and you can see this kind of kukri knife thing, like this curved knife, and she pulls it out and slices up into your arm that's holding her by the throat and cuts right into your bicep, and is just like kind of running that thing in there. Your action.
Which I'm still clamped down because I have relentless grasp.
Absolutely.
So she's... I, having previously dug under her to hit her in the kidney, am going to whip and attempt to just blade right through the temple.
All right, excellent. Go for it. I'm going to give you the an extra dice advantage because you are holding her solid.
Okay, so then 3 regular dice.
3, yeah. 3 plus 2.
Okay, and then 2 hunger. There's so many dice now. Okay. I cannot use a night move after I've rolled, correct?
Correct.
Okay, well then that's 1 success.
Okay, that's all you need.
Great.
It's all predicated on the 1 success. You reach out and stab at her face with the knife, and it goes in, and you feel it go in like here, but it kind of diverts a little bit and goes inside the mouth, and it's kind of like going through. She seems really bad off. She's not down yet, but she seems very, very injured. Artemisia, you are on the ground. You've pulled a stake out. Your brother, you can see he looks around, and you sense that he's genuinely surprised by what's going on. And then he looks at you and mouths sorry, and he gets up and he runs out.
I think as he tries to run, she's going to try and grab for him.
All right, go ahead and make a combat roll. You're going to roll your physical plus combat. Or you can spend a night move.
I rolled. I rolled a 1.
Oh, no. Well, so the first thing you're going to want to do is spend a night move to negate the critical, unless you don't mind the critical. Critical failure.
Yeah, I would like to negate that.
All right, no problem. You reach out for him as he goes by, and as you reach out for him, out of the corner of your eye, you see the assassin's sword coming down again, and you realize it's your arm that's going to go, so you pull back, and the sword strikes the ground, and your brother manages to get away because of this, but you avoided the critical failure of getting your arm cut. You look back and you can see that the other Assamite has struck a massive blow to Zuleika. She's on the ground bleeding. Part of her arm is gone, and the Assamite turns towards your father and grabs him by the top of the hair and grabs his blade, and rips right through his neck. And you see his head come off and blood just starts gushing everywhere. Back up to the top. The one that is fighting you, Amar, is looking very weak. She attempts to strike you 1 more time. It's another 10. Jeez.
You have the opposite curse that I have, which is I can never roll properly.
Absolutely massive tonight. You're going to take 2 damage as the blade digs right deep inside of you, and it is your action. She looks pretty damaged.
Then I am going to use another night move to automatically succeed on yanking that blade out of her face and grabbing her head and snapping her neck all the way around.
Excellent. With the night move and your unrelenting grasp that you have, I'm going to say, in fact, you rip the knife and you grab her head and you twist so hard that it partially tears her neck off. And as that happens, she starts to turn to ash in front of you, scattering on the ground. All of a sudden you can hear sounds. You hear Artemisia screaming. You hear footsteps disappearing. You smell so much blood around. You turn. You see Artemisia on the ground trying to reach for her father. You see a pile of ash where her father's body was, and another one where Zuleika was. In the shadows, the other assassin is disappearing.
I rush to Artemisia, completely ignoring my wounds, and scoop her and say, "Come, we must leave now."
My father.
I know.
She's just like kind of trying to collect the ash haphazardly into her hands and sobbing as she does so.
Amar puts a hand on her cheek and says, "My dear, we must go. There is nothing we can do for him now. Come."
Where are we to go?
Anywhere
What are we
but
to
here.
do?
Come, now.
She does as Amar bids.
You rush upstairs, back through the house of the dead, and as you exit out the door, you are confronted with a group, 6 of the Black Friars, the Templars who had come earlier. At their head is Fulgio Decimus.
I think
What-
Artemisia collapses at Decimus's feet. Hands that are covered in ash grip his robes and stripe them in this ash, and she's sobbing.
He drops down and picks you in his arm and goes, "What on earth happened? What happened in there?"
Assassins, they've killed my father. He's dead. He lies dead in the crypt below.
He seems completely distraught and taken by surprise. And he's like, "We'll get to the bottom of it. I swear. I am so deeply sorry for what I'm about to do. But I swear to you, I will not rest until we get to the bottom of this." And he looks over at the Blackfriars and is like, "Take the Lady Willoughby. She is to be arrested."
What is this?
"I'm sorry, while I was on my way to deliver the news, Abraham has brought us evidence of the orders being signed by your hand."
My hands that hold the ashes of my father, I cry over. Decimus, look me in my eyes and tell me that you believe this.
"My lady, I am acting under the orders of Vetria Caligula. She has ordered your arrest."
It is a lie.
"It may be. As you kind of speak out, you see the Blackfriars start to move, draw swords, and sort of start gathering around Artemisia.
Amar
ahead.
is going to step right at her shoulder and say, "You cannot take her."
I understand you have a duty to do, but they will kill you. They will bring final death to you. He looks at you, Artemisia. "I beg of you, for her sake, order her to back down, or they will kill her."
Stay your blade, Amar. And she turns her body to face the woman. You must go now. You must find my brother. It is he who did this. Find him. I will be okay for now. Do not worry yourself on me.
I will find you. Mark me.
I think she presses her forehead to Amar's briefly, in almost a bow. And
Amar
then go
also
ahead.
exchanges and puts a hand on the back of her neck, her hand that is so badly injured, and leaves a smear of blood on her cheek.
And she'll turn to Decimus. I guess I will go with you. I have no choice.
It is the wise decision. I promise you, Artemisia, we will find who is responsible for this and for your father's assassination. He looks at you, Amar, and he says, "The Seneschal, Abraham, delivered the papers. I might start with him."
Tell your knights they are never allowed to follow me.
They will not. And the guards will move forward and they will grab Artemisia and they will put chains around your wrists. They will lift you up and carry you along. Decimus will give you one last look, Amar. Again, difficult to tell. In one moment, in one light, he looks aggrieved by what is happening. And then in the other one, there's almost this sly look in his eyes. It's difficult to tell, but he gives you a smile and says, "We will find this. We will find whoever did this."
You protect her with your life, or so help me, I will find you. Understood?
He bows to you and turns. You stand there outside the house of the dead. Bodies inside, blood on your hands. Artemisia being carried away into the night by the Knights Templar. In a city that you don't know, and you realize everyone you knew, not just your allies, but everyone you knew, is now dead or taken away, and you're alone in this city of the dead. And that, my friends, will conclude the first episode of Cleave.